My name's Sasha Pete, and I'm joined by a fantastic individual, somebody who's given 50 plus years to our great game. All the way from Scotland, he played up and down the leagues and captained nearly every single side he played in until migrating to Australia to play in Morwell and then coach him in the NSL. So none other than the great Harry Bingham. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you very much, Sasha. That is an overwhelming introduction. I'm privileged to hear such good words about me.
Fantastic, mate. So you've done great. But tell us, how did you fall in love with our great game?
You know, this is a common one, and I guess you yourself or any player, supporter, clubman, committee man, the common thing is you sit as a kid watching the television with your uncles, your brothers, your dad, and you see a game and it draws you in. And then your dad will take you to games as a little kid, and you tend not to watch the game, you watch the crowd and people, and you're kind of, wow, and you're in awe of the environment, and you just get excited by this. And then you're drawn to the emotion of the game. You hear your dad shouting at the referee or things. Oh, so many people. So the love of the game grows from that. It's a common affinity. And I truly love that same story getting repeated by the most highest credentialed players and coaches, but the ordinary little guy who takes his kid to the park. That love of the game is inherent. And I think it's more of a feeling. I think it's actually hard to explain, but it never leaves you. I've seen you so many times. So we've got the television as a live game on, or a bit of a game, and my wife's asked me to take maybe the washing out to the laundry in the garage, and I'm sort of out the door and I'll stop and I'll pause and I'm outside the door, I'll close it and I'll look again. And I keep looking every window in the way to the garage to see this damn game, you know. So the love of the game is something that comes from a very young age. And then you get to play this ball. And then you try to get better. And then you enjoy that whole nature with your peers and your kids. My love of the game, Sasha, has never left me. I actually think it's the most important thing you must have as a player and as a coach. You must love the game first before any other attribute. If you don't love the game, it's very difficult to succeed in the game. Very difficult.
Yeah, wise words. Tell us, where did you first lace up the boots? I take it was in Glasgow.
I'm actually from a place called Greenock, not far from Glasgow, 25 miles. Little a story in itself, and it parallels later on when I went to Morwell. So Greenock was a shipbuilding town, very famous. Many of the famous ships, the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mary, QT, were all built there. And massive employment all up and down the west of Scotland to Glasgow, all docks. And them towns, you would have thousands of men in the shipyards coming out every night, and each little town had a football club. And my local town was Greenock Morton.
Brilliant.
So my first love, I started playing my school team. I was 6 years of age, 7 years of age, and played primary school. We weren't very good, but just that he used to give you the ball to take home to clean for the next game, and that was pride, this ball, you know. You would guard it, nobody was allowed to kick it. And I would go home with my ball after the game, after getting beat 5-0 or something, I had the ball, you know. And you washed this ball and brought it back for the next game. You're waiting your turn all the time to have the ball. So, yeah, I just continued playing through primary school. And then my football competitive nature came secondary school. I went into secondary school, a bit younger. You go in at 12, I went in at 11. And actually, one of my recurring stories is I was always just missing out. I was just missing out the big clubs. And at 11 years of age, I went in, and the school's first age group is the under 13s, which is usually a 12-year-old. I missed out. I missed out in the first try. I never get picked, and I was so heartbroken. Really traumatized with failing because the first time. But the following year, I was young enough to re-trial for the 13s, and I was successful. And then I became the captain of the team. But then the original team, the 14s, wanted me to play. And I said, no, I'm not playing with you. We're a better team than the 13s. Pride and all that. Actually, I played with both. I played with the 14 school team in the cup ties, and I played with my own team. And the first thrill I ever had, we made the school's cup final, and we played on the senior football ground.
Right.
Wonderful, and we won the game, and I got the cup and all that. So it was that sort of ongoing, and we were a very good school team. And as I went through the secondary school years, I continued with the 14s and 15s again, continued cup final success, winning the leagues, and I was a captain of all these teams holding cups. In the meantime, along with that, I signed my youth club was Glasgow Rangers Boys Club.
Yep.
Which is a big, massive club in the west of Scotland, along with Celtic, obviously. And I started playing with them. I went on tour with them, the European tour, and which was a big, big thing. We lost to the German team, but I had scored in the previous game against the Sweden team. Got injured for the semi-final, we knocked out. But I was expecting, and everybody was, that I would sign with Glasgow Rangers. And I was waiting and waiting. In the meantime, waiting for that to happen, I was offered a trial at Chelsea. And I went down there. I was unsuccessful, but you kind of weren't bothered about not being successful because the thrill just to be selected for a trial in them days, it was unheard of. It was like they flew me down on a plane, and I'd never been on a bus before, never been on a plane.
Yeah.
And all the way it goes down to London. So I was unsuccessful. Then Aston Villa offered me a trial. Went down there, unsuccessful. Aston Villa had the experience of the goal situation, the movie Goal, because the coach sent me and the other little guy from Wales go and get sort of poles to put in the ground for the practice match. So we went in, and two of the Aston Villa apprentices were sitting there. What do you want, you little Scots? I was going, can you get the balls? And they give me a whack and they passed. You know? So unsuccessful at Aston Villa. And then I went to...
Just name some, you remember some of the boys that were in the first team Aston Villa at the time?
Chelsea first team, I remember the first team we went, Peter Osgood and a guy called Ian Hutchinson were there. I just saw them away in. I was going to ask for their autograph. I was so overawed. But fair enough, there was a practice match going on. I recognised David Webb, who was the captain, and the other guy, I think I call him Chopper Harris. So these guys were playing. I stood and watched the game a little while. And I was kind of, I wouldn't say late for my practice match because we had to go to another pitch. But I was just watching these guys so close, the real big names. Aston Villa had a guy called Chico Hamilton, which was a prominent English goal scorer at the time. The third club I went to was Ipswich. Aston Villa rejected me as well. I went to Ipswich, who asked me to come back. And Ipswich at that time was Bobby Robson, Kevin Beattie, English international, Scottish international, very good always. But you never got near them. I never saw any of the first team people or even Bobby Robson. But they did offer me to come back, but my mother said, no, I don't want you going to England and thinking all these ideas. I said, okay, Mum. Eventually I signed in my hometown club, which I should have done in the first place. They had a great attitude. They were all about way ahead of their time, getting young players, getting them in the first team and selling them on to the bigger clubs. And they did a couple of things. So came back to Scotland. I was then in the Scottish schoolboys. I was picking the Scottish schoolboys. I was a captain. So the way the things work in Scotland, you have your shire you're in. I was in Renfrewshire, which takes in sort of Glasgow. Yeah, west
of Scotland. Yep.
Yeah. And I became the captain of that team. And to get into that team was about 4 or 5 trials. A lot of good players. And eventually you play the north, the east, and the south for the selection of the national champions. I got through to the last trial. And you're sort of expected to that point you're going to get picked. Because they take 20 players, and there's only 22 playing in this last game. I scored a goal in the last game. We lost 3-1, but I scored a goal. I've been a captain all the way through. And at the end of the game in them days, it was really, it was very difficult. And it was wrongly done. They named the team right after the game. And it was in a place called Fir Park in Glasgow, home of a Glasgow club called Partick Thistle. I remember, so they call out the teams after name. This is who's going for the home internationals starting the following week. And you're on TV and all that, you know. And, so I'd made good friends with a great Celtic player called Roy Aitken. He'd come from the south, Ayrshire. Roy Aitken. We were, he would say, "Oh, I'll be great, Harry. We're going to Wembley next week. We'll do this and that." And he started talking, and there's a lot of quite big names there at times. Scottish coaches are there watching to pick up players. But I had signed on my home club, Morton. But the great Jock Stein was present, the great Celtic man. And I was a Rangers Boys Club player. After the game, I'll give you a prefix. I'm going on a bit. We were standing after the game. It was the second game was at Love Street, home of St Mirren, Hub and Paisley. And I was standing with Roy Aitken with a little blazer on. And he was standing, and he'd signed with Celtic, Roy Aitken. Anyway, Jock Stein came in, and Jock Stein, by any measure, is a big, tall man. He'd be 6'4", 6'6", big presence physically, but he was a legend. Celtic had won the Champions League, were dominating the squad, great players. And he came up and he patted me in the head, and he said, "Great game, son." His hand was bigger than my head. I'm eating this pie, and and the pie is dry. I said, "Roy Aitken, that's Jock Stein. That's Jock Stein." He said to me, "It's a bit cold out there tonight, son." Anyway, go back to the story. They read out the team, and they're reading out other teams, and players are, and I never get picked. And you stand there on your own along with the other boy, and you kind of, you don't know what you do, and you try to take it to chin. And then your friends are embarrassed for you. You had good friends. And so I said, "Well, I'm going to get picked." And I went back to my hometown for school on the Monday, and the teacher wanted to take it up, take it further. He said, "I'll get you in the team," but I was very proud. Not to don't want me, I'm not very proud. It never happened. But let me go back to all of them. What I realise now is you've been rejected at Chelsea, you've been rejected at Aston Villa. Actually, I had an interest from Tottenham, Spurs. And Ipswich were interested, and then I got rejected with the Scottish national youth team. And Rangers never came on the door. So at some point, now you're being told, nah, they can't all be, not intelligent people about football. Sasha, they know something about football, and basically you weren't good enough. Or there was a better player at the time.
Yeah.
You got to accept some of these things. And if you're okay with it, then it'll drive you on. I was quite thrilled, apart from the Scottish thing, at actually getting trials. Because word goes around, and the next club will give you a trial because they heard you got a trial there, a trial there.
Yep.
So it was that kind of thing. Straight from school, I signed for my hometown club, Green at Morton.
Yep.
We're in the first division. Full-time professional.
Yep. Beautiful.
And but a full-time professional is not glamorous. You're sweeping the grandstand and doing the lines and boots and all them things. But you kind of love it because you're a professional footballer. And if you look at my home ground, right across the street is the shipyards. The big cranes are in the background. And one of my jobs, the grandstand was just like steps. It wasn't seats, it was like steps. And each step had a half-metre number, white lines, and 670 and 680. And my job was to paint the white lines and go over the numbers with stencils. So you do all these things.
Yeah.
What happened at Morton, and they were really good to me, and my pride got the better of me again. But basically they signed me in a full-time contract. And then the following year, the club went part-time. They were relegated from the first division.
Yep.
But to their credit, they kept on 3 of us, the young players, and they also got us jobs. I got an apprenticeship in shipyard, what the directors were. So they got me It was a pipe fitter. And they loaned you out. One of the great things they did in them days was they loaned you out to the semi-pro teams at men's club. It's actually called junior football in Scotland. It's not juniors, it's men, but it's the junior from a professional. Probably the most educational point I've ever played football. You're playing against men, or you're playing against players like yourself who've been loaned out from the big clubs. And it's a high standard. Mixture of energetic youth and experienced older men has been there, done that. So wonderful year. And then the club brought me back, and I was playing the reserves, and I was in and out of the team. But I was 17, but I wanted it all to happen quickly. And the story is this: my friend, who'd come back on loan, he goes to. So he's in the school teams, he's in the lower leagues. His school's not very good. His youth team's not. My team's the winning team. So I'm the captain, I'm the big guy. But this guy's name is Neil Orr. Neil was an exceptional player. And what you come to realise now is sometimes playing as a lesser player, a good player in a lesser team, actually may make you a better player. Because you're under pressure every week. You don't win a lot of games, and you're striving for that first one. It's so in you're giving it more. Whereas a team that's dominant, you don't have to work so hard. You get kind of relaxed in your ability. But Neil Orr was always in this situation. I hadn't won the sort of trophies and cups and things. But the story is this: Neil signed with West Ham. I'm playing. Everybody thought I was a better player than Neil. At the time, you probably do yourself because you're young. Looking back, he was a very good player. There's no doubt about it. The great crew of West Ham and then Hibs. I goes on to the shipyards and I keep playing the reserves. I'm playing in the reserves quite regularly, and then they loan me out again to another junior team called Port Glasgow. And that was a tougher type of football than the Western League I was down in Ayrshire.
This is 79, 80, 81, 82.
At that time, late 70s. And so I'm on that. So I'm enjoying it. I'm doing well. I get a game of football every week. I'm getting paid some money. I'm working as an apprentice pipe fitter. I got nothing to complain about. And I'm quite happy with my life. But I'm starting to think, I'm not going to have a career in football. Maybe I've just not got the cutting edge. I'm starting to get a little bit of self-doubt. Loved it. I was going to keep playing. I was doing well. But not when I wanted to be doing well. And then I'd seen younger players who you think at that time you're better at, and everybody else assumes and tells you in your head that you are better. You're going on and having good success. I had multiple friends and associated players who'd signed with the big club Celtic and Rangers and Dundee United. My last chance I had was Aberdeen. Alex Ferguson's just taken over, but I had been asked to come up by the chief head scout, a little guy called Bobby Collins. And I was definitely going to go. Lo and behold, I was playing a game in Edinburgh, a Scottish Cup tie, with the semi-pro team, Port Glasgow. And a guy came up to me after the game and said he was representing the Australian Soccer Federation. And they were bringing players to Australia to promote the National Leagues and the Premier Leagues. I think call them state leagues there. And they were allowed 3 visa players, and I would have been interested in coming. And to be perfectly honest with you, this Aberdeen thing in my head, I didn't give it a lot of thought. I sort of didn't know a lot about Australia. I knew about Sydney, about the Harbour Bridge. It's quite ignorant to the fact of what it had to offer. And I considered it second-rate football, as you do. You think Scotland's the world. But, so I never bothered this chap. He phoned me up a couple of times. He said, look, we've got offers for a club in Sydney. It was Apia, Leichhardt, and a couple in Melbourne. And I'm saying, look, I really appreciate it. Yeah, look, I'm interested, but I sort of, I never put the guy off and wasn't rude to him, but I never paid much interest. The next time I was playing, a few weeks later, and this guy was at the game, and he was talking to somebody else. He was talking to another player who I actually met in Australia. And he said, yeah, we tried to talk Harry into come, but he's lost interest now. I never said no, I was just enjoying the conversation. But an older man came to me from one of our supporters who'd been to Australia and came back to Scotland. He put me aside and said, "Have you got an offer to go to Australia?" I said, "Yes, I did have actually." Very great. He says, "Look, you need to go and do this." He said, "You're turning 21." He said, "And it's going to be tougher to get in the pro ranks here." He says, "And then secondly, if you don't do it, you may regret it years later. If you do go and you're not successful, you come back, but you've not lost nothing." And it was the best advice I ever took, because I sort of hummed and hawed at it. But then I checked it out, and a number of Scottish players I knew had been there, particularly in Melbourne with Heidelberg and a couple with in Sydney, and they were saying, "No, the standard is very good, and you'll get to play against." This was something that rang through when I came here. Said you'll get to play against the players who are other nationalities, or second generation players from Europe or South America, whatever. I said, "Oh." So I sort of said, "Okay." And I got the guy get back in touch with me. I said, "Look, I'm interested in coming." Less than a week later, I actually got a call from Morwell Falcons, who were then just getting in the Victorian Premier League. They'd been a regional club. The Victorian Premier League was all city clubs. But because they'd built new facilities and they had done well in the first division, they were getting accepted into the Victorian State League. So they asked me if I would come out, and I said, "Yeah, sure." A week later, they sent a contract in the mail. Actually, a contract with terms on it, and I didn't even spoke to them. But basically, the terms said, "You'll get this if you win. We'll get you a sign-on fee. We'll put you in a flat. And we'll get you a job. Once you get the job, you pay your own in the flat." I'm thinking that is as good as you'll get, you know. So I came out, and I never forget it. I come to Morwell. I come to the Melbourne airport, and the president came, Dundee Fabrizio, a wonderful man. And he came in a Mercedes car, big blue Mercedes. They picked me up at the airport. And I'm going, "This is good." And we drove through Melbourne, and we passed by the city and a bit past St Kilda. And I'm looking, I'm going, "This is pretty good. I'm enjoying this."
Yeah.
And we went out of the city. And there wasn't too much. There was paddocks, and I'm going, "How long does it take to get there?" She says, "Oh, it'll be another hour." I said, "Okay." And then we stopped at, I don't know, somewhere past Morwell.
Yeah.
And he stopped to get petrol. And literally, it was a little country petrol station.
Yes.
With two pumps.
Yes.
He says, "Do you want anything to eat?" And I'm so glad I said no, because how many other guys come back with this big hamburger with a lot, and it was dripping with sauce in the house. So anyway, we kept, and they're asking me, he says, "What sort of crowds would you get in Scotland?" I says, "Oh, look, the biggest is 45,000. I said, "We're small." Well, he said, "You won't get that here." And I'm like, "Okay." So something from the high in Melbourne, it was now getting.
Yeah.
And then we pulled up at, before Moy, there's a sort of rise, and you can look and you see the big open cup.
Yeah.
So they pulled in there, this sort of side of the road down. They're going, "Yeah, look at that." And I'm going, and it's all the open cup mining levels, massive big thing. And I'm going, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's pretty good, you know." I'm like, "Is that the sights to see?" And I understand that was a lifeblood for these men, because all the work can come from the power stations and all that stuff. And anyway, we finally get into Morwell, small little town, nice. And we go to the ground, and of course in Scotland, as you know, the little stadiums, little grandstands, little enclosure for spectators, a little ground, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a reasonably big ground, but you drive a big car park, nice buildings, and then an open sort of ground around the playing field. And all the cars would come in there, and never the grandstand there, the cars would come and watch the game. And
Yes.
This is really weird to me, you know, accustomed. But I guess the greatest bonus was they took me in the club and said, "This is Harry, and we're just having a meeting, Harry, you wait in there, the bingo's on." And I'm going, "Okay." So I'm then sitting there, and all these older people go. Anyway, two young ladies come in and sat down right beside me. And One of them was one of the players' wives, who was he was a Dutch import, and he stayed on, get married, and his sister ended up introduced herself, and they were Italian, And they start talking to me in Italian, So I'm kissed. I didn't know what they were saying. And then one of them spoke English. Where are you from? And I says, oh, I'm from Scotland. Oh, I said, you thought we were from Italy. So, anyway, so they introduced me, and Franca, sister of the other lady, was my wife, became my wife. I met her first day I arrived.
Fantastic.
And it was just one of them stories. So, but, you've got to get a bit humble. You've got to start realizing you're not the sort of superstar you wanted to be, or if you were going to be, and start realizing, at least, firstly, my mother always gave that. My father's Irish, and they're very corrective and not letting you get above your station. My father's one of them old gentlemen, don't speak unless you're spoken to adults, and, strict. And you start to see what this club had done and what people had done. And it's quite a story in itself, Sasha, and Morwell, and the rise of the club and its ascension to the status it got to the old National League. And then it's falling down from the big stadium still there, and there's nothing else there. It's like a big white elephant. And my father-in-law still lives there. And I go up occasionally to try and see him, and I get very emotional. For every memory is there, everything. I lived there for 10 years before we had to move on. But the next 10 years was, they just went from strength to strength.
Yep.
They had a plan, they had a vision, and they were going to go in the National League, and the first was to get some noise in the Premier League. Now, they couldn't do it just for locals, so obviously bring in some overseas players, and then they're getting players from Melbourne. The second or third year we won the Victoria. The first year we made the final, Green Gully beat us in the final. But then you start to see, I started to get accustomed to the style of football. It's a nice mix. You get the kind of British Anglo-Celtic get stuck in style, which you're used to, with flashes of skill. But then you come up against, or you start to, I consider myself an efficient player. I played with a lot of players that was better than me. And I played against a lot of players that was better than me. I think makes you a better player, because you become very aware of what you can and can't do, and how to play and who to play with. And in them days, every club was sort of doing the same thing. It was bringing out visa players to the max, and then it was sort of like this locals who'd been around, and then it was starting to introduce the exciting young players. So your Vidukas and your Kules that were starting to come into these leagues, playing with the older players, as you did in Scotland, playing with the older men. You started to become good players. And you're playing against, the Australian national team was still pretty much a part-time operation itself. And so was the National League, in fact, them guys are doing it tough. But the quality, every week you're playing against international players, with or against them. And, the players in the end, Oscar Crino comes to me, Kenny Murphy, Gary Cole, Jeff Oliver, Theo Selenides. And there was a guy, I think his name was Milosevic, with either Melbourne, Croatia, Putsky. One of the greatest players I've ever seen. He was constantly able to be in the right place at the right time. He almost seemed to have space and time. You couldn't. I remember going to tackle this guy, and he would just get put your ball away, find someone, or I'd go and hold, and he would hold. He had an innate sense of knowing when to keep it, when to play it, and he could suck you in. Just tremendous football awareness. And near one of my earliest, I was always told about Jimmy Rooney, who was at the end of his career when I was playing. And he played for a year with Croydon. And he discovered Paul Wade. And some had sort of discovered. I remember the same feeling of playing against him. I was very fit, energetic player, and I played in all positions. I was always getting a game, and I got a fixed position where I wanted. I was right midfield. I was double centre back. I was right back. I was a go-to man. I was going, I want a game. I want to play in midfield. But I remember playing Jimmy Rooney, and I was fitter than him. I was able to get away from him. But when he had the ball, I couldn't get it off him. I couldn't accept it. And when I did, he'd play it away. I always started to realise that these are players that have got a higher level. And probably, you know, the argument is all the time, our generation. There's very good young players now. There always has been. But players like that, if there's such a thing as a time capsule, Sasha, they would adapt and play very well now.
Yep.
No problem. The good players are the players in the team that make a difference, Sasha. The guys that, you know, I was a player of the team. I was in the team. I was a team player. But the better players were always evident to me. I was always quite thrilled playing with them. One of my greatest playing experiences was playing with Alan Evans, who played at Liverpool. The reason I mention it, as a kid, and we're talking about on TV with my father watching the game, Liverpool played Bayern Munich in a live game. And I'd been a young boy, maybe 10, 11 years old, watching this game. He scored 2 goals in this game. And I was going, wow, wonderful experience watching them live games with your family. And he and I were in Australia playing with him. And coaching as such is maybe tactical and directive when the coach about information in the game. Coaching to a player how to be a better player comes from somebody who's been in that experience in the game as a player.
Yeah.
And Alan Evans never had his speed anymore. He could still hold the ball. Great touch. He was always backing onto defenders. And at this time I was playing at right back. He said to me, Harry, if I'm backed on a defender, play it to my feet. He says, if he's behind me, let me reverse that. He says, if he's folding tight me, play it in at my chest. He says, because I can hold him off and I'll get a free kick. If he's a yard or 2 meters off, he'll play it to my feet, then I'll take a touch and I'll turn him. And I'm going, how much common sense does it make just to hear?
Yes.
As soon as he said that, I was going, how did I not know that? You know, anyway, we're doing this and doing this. That's particularly against Brunswick Juventus, who were filled with great players. They had wonderful balance. I think the balance of the team is experience, skill, and youth. And they had great experience with the Bannon brothers. They had youth with young Fabio and Cantalibri and Andrew Zini coming out at the time. And then they had Murphy in midfield and the other guy. Very good player. Come on, says the game's teetering on. It's going quite well for us because we're a great side. And Alan Evans, I knocked a ball into him, just a little chip. You know, the top of scoring to long balls. I couldn't hit a beat a long ball. I was always a little short, flighted pass guy.
Okay.
I had to link up with people. I couldn't hit a decent long ball. So I've chipped this little flighted ball into him, and he's taking his chest. Anyway, he just got a bump from the back, as you've seen many times. He went down. And he fell and he laid down. So we got the free kick, and me and another guy were sort of standing about the free kick. And I say, all right, He says, no. He says, my leg's broken.
Oh.
So we're kind of looking, you know. It looked all right to me because he was on his, he was upright on his front. His leg had kind of crossed over. So if you imagine cross legs, he'd sit there. But look, I'm saying, and he's very calm. And I said, oh, okay, well, am I helping? No, don't touch me, he says. Don't touch me. We're going. So everybody's standing there, tells her if you go away, the stretcher that you come on, I broke my leg. And you can tell Anthony was calm. And the stretcher comes on, he says, okay, Harry. He said to me, and he said to another guy, Jim McLeod, and I think it was Vince or Paddy Barron, who he knew, he's talking to him. He says, okay, put it right on the one side. He says, and then Jimmy, you get my foot. Harry, you get my just my hip. And you get my shoulder, Vince. He says, now count 1, 2, 3, and then flip me over. We're going, yeah, we get kind of scared. Okay. So he goes 1, 2, 3, and we flip him over, so he falls over on his front, stomach on the stretcher like this. Then the back of the leg, the bone, grey tip of the bone was sticking through. And I was kind of, see, he'd broken it before when he played with South Melbourne.
Oh.
And it was just protruding a bit, and it's, you know, there actually wasn't a lot of blood, but there was a horrible swelling and a distortion. The sort of leg was going around. And I was kind of affected by it, because the guy took me under his wing. I was like his little apprentice. He was always talking to me. He says, when they back off, run with it. When they close you down, let you play it. But always try to gain ground up the field. You know, when somebody's backing off 5 metres, you can still go 2 metres. If he shuts you down, you take them on, and you play it backwards. And he was always telling me to advance. I'm going, how good is this guy? I kind of liked him. And then he never come back after that.
Yeah.
And I never met him till years later, Sasha. I met him at Bentley Greens, and he was a painter. And he had a few unfortunate incidents privately. And I was saddened by it. A gentleman, a real gentleman of the game.
It's amazing, an era whereby blokes would break their leg and wouldn't say boo. Today, if people get touched and screaming and hollering, and it's just how there's certain things that have come into the modern game that is a little bit, just sort of irks me a little bit. And that's one of them, the over sort of, the over exaggeration of injury, right? So if you hurt, you hurt, right? And I don't begrudge anybody for crying or screaming when you're really hurt. But you grew up in an era where you played football that, you know, to stay down, when you're down, you're bet to be broken, right?
You must be hurt if you're down.
Yeah, you must be. You must be. Your leg better be broken, because if you could get up again and start sprinting off, that'd be embarrassing. Just simply embarrassing to even do that. You know, to fall down and now that theatrics that came in, that probably came in. You know, as you were finishing off and as I was sort of starting to play, and, you know, almost encourage, you know, to roll around. I think it's a bit much, and hopefully we're getting that out of the game now. A little bit, you know, that we play football fair.
Yeah.
If you get hurt, obviously you go down, but if you're not hurt, get back up and play. Yeah.
You know, it's role playing, Sasha. The time you play the next time, whatever you're seeing in television, you role play. So we've all got models. We've all got our favourite players. And now, the passing of Maradona is a relevant one to mention this. I think the guy took that much punishment and he rolled and all, but he was in pain. He was copping it. But he was getting up and on in the game. He got his free kicks. There's other ones who played that and smirk and laugh at you. They're kind of tough in the way. They're just gaining a cheating advantage. So we don't like all that. But it was done by some big and better players. But Australian football, for me, the wonder of it, Sasha, and I still think one of our failings at the moment is getting away from our ethnic diversity.
Yeah.
The ethnic diversity. Both of us have an ethnic diversity or an inherent subliminal learning of the game.
Yeah.
You're saying that your father, your uncle, and your brothers at a major game watch it live on TV. And then a discussion goes half time. You should put him off, you should take them off, you should change the position, and then everybody's putting a bit in. So that becomes where you pick up learning methodologies and habits from your dad, your uncle, your brother, your neighbour, your friends of that experience. You actually weren't coached that. You were picked in the team and you get an idea of the role you played. You know, you would say, okay, I'm a right midfielder and I've got to get forward, I've got to stop their left side. There's a general knowledge of your role, but the little tips you get come from, you know, play the way you're facing.
Yeah.
You know, the little subliminal things stick there. They become a habit with you, and you've got the ball to this. It's like, I remember so often when I was sort of the wider a fullback and cross that. But the closer the goal I was told to hit it low and hard, if there was a pack of them, hit it low and hard. They come from my dad, because even if it might hit off someone going anyway.
Yeah, something's going to happen.
that kind of thing on. So these little things, when you're in that situation, you remember it and you kind of do it from maybe a non-professional or coach. So I think the the heritage you have in your football from anywhere, and particularly we're now talking about styles of football, which goes into the ethnic culture. So if we say a British style of football, we imagine a sort of urban Atlam and maybe the long ball game, not there now, but and then you go into an Italian game, ultra defensive, counter attack. You get into a South American game, attack oriented, individual skills and brilliance. So then comes the beauty of the game. Then comes the challenge of the game.
Yeah.
Because it's players that do it. It's not coaches.
Yeah.
I loved it in Australia. I love playing against ethnic players. I became admired. And I enjoyed talking to them. I enjoyed hearing them.
The stories.
Yeah, because they've got a story like us, as anyone has, and it's the
Fantastic.
love of the game, if you think, the wonder of the game does that.
And it's a good segue because you spent your whole life pretty much down there at Morwell. Is this right that Bobby McLaughlin had the top job and you were his assistant? And for one reason or another, he packed his bags because he didn't feel like he could get the most out of the team. But that side was like pretty well stacked. You had the Tassin goals, Douglas, Pardon, Miller, Amy Tapai, who I remember from Footscray, Just, Sturgeopoulos, Bothwell, Sonny Seven, Warren Spink, obviously played,
Markowski, of course.
Waddell, John Markowski, who forgive that. You had young John Markowski there and Villani. And that first game that you had, I think you spanked Brisbane 5-1 in your first game. So how's that for your first day on the job, eh? 5-1, huh?
Yeah, there's a background to it, Sasha and Seth. Bobby McLaughlin had been at Morwell for the ambition was to go nationally. In my playing time, twice we qualified for it. We won. You won your state league, you get a playoff or promotion to the national league, and twice we achieved it. We won 1984, and we declined. We're not ready. We don't have the finances and all that stuff. 1989, I tell a lie, 1989 we lost the playoff to West Adelaide. But then we were offered it because someone opted out.
Okay.
Maybe one of the Brisbane teams, so we never went in. But Dundee Fabrizio's ambition was always to get in. So we sort of carried on. And along the way, I've been offered to go with a few National League clubs, with the greatest respect to and I appreciated it. But I was married and I was a sort of sensible kind of guy. I'm a type of guy, play my game football, have a meal with the guys, and without being cliche, I don't drink. I'm probably the only guy that escaped Scotland because we've got a nation of world record holders,
Yeah.
So I'd sort of mix with players. I'd go home and go in. And then going to the National League in the end is, remember, we're still part-time. I'm working at a power station. It's 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
It's a weekend game, and every second game is away in Sydney or Brisbane or Adelaide. And I'm saying, I'm not doing it. I'm kidding. So what happened was the club did get to National League, and they offered me to keep on playing. I said, no, I can't do it. But I said, I want to coach. They want me to coach a youth team, which greatest pleasure I've had in coaching. Greatest pleasure. Because all the things we've talked about come back to you. And you say to yourself, I'm not going to coach the way I was coached. I'm going to coach the way I wanted to be
coached. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you do all that, you have a good back. And I really loved it. And I put all local players in. And we were very good. We made the finals in the 4th year. The team that Bobby had in its 3rd year. And Bobby's got a great eye for a player. Knows good players. And he knows the game. He's always let assistants or other people do the training, along with what he wants. He comes into the game centre practice. The set plays, the crossing finishing, and the attack, be defence, half scenarios. He doesn't bother. He does a full game scenario. So I'd always been developing a relationship with the players, and I was always doing this youth team. And then what had happened, it was the year of the Ericsson Cup.
Yeah.
As a sponsor. And in that particular year, we had to play 3 games in the season for, I guess, entertainment, promotion, whatever you think. And we never were losing predominantly. We were drawing a lot of games. It was getting frustrating.
Yeah.
We'd be winning games and then losing in the last minute or getting an equaliser. And I remember twice we played South Melbourne and we were winning 2-0 at one stage. They get back to 2-2 in literally the last minute. Same with Sydney, same with Olympic. Just couldn't close the game. And then it was seeing me, I think we had about 8 games left. And the other thing is our youth team was doing well. And the local kids, I was with the youth team now, and we're looking to make the finals, which was a major achievement. We beat the VIS this particular week at home, and some of the good young players you're well aware of. But the senior team had lost the game after to Wollongong, who were lower than us in the league. We lost at home. So anyway, didn't cross my mind. And then I got a call to come to the club on the Monday night, which is usually the day off. And the club said, look, Bobby's standing down. We want you to take over to the end of the year and we'll reevaluate it next year. We just want to finish the season. And I'm sort of, thrilled but not
bit gutted as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also said to myself, well, and I was going to get sympathy. We were expected not to do it. We were expected to finish the year, keep it away, have another go next year, probably a new coach coming in. And they didn't want to embarrass me. We were trying to get someone to save the ship then. And so it all seemed quite practical, except it was going to be tough for me because I was still working pretty much in the power stations on shift. And then the travelling, and I said, look, I'll do it. I'll help the club. It's been a great club for me. I'll help the club. But I said, look, we can't play this. He always had a defensive sweeper behind the midfield and in front of the defence, usually John Waddell. The outlet it wasn't a ball winner, it was a player. John Waddell could strike good balls, and he was a wonderful long shot, good distribution. It wasn't so much a ball winner. Tall guy, wasn't great in the air. But defenders could give him the ball rather than just play it forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, look, we need to take a punt here. We need to win games. Let's get more people forward. Let's push John forward into the midfield. And we got Miller and young Marcina. I said, we encourage them to go down the flanks. But the ones we don't come forward is Parton and Canosa.
Mm-hmm.
They're out defenders.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll make it, if Marcina goes, then Miller stays in the left and tucks in, and if Miller goes, and so we worked out this kind of way to play. Tapai was always wanting to play midfield central. But Bothwell was too good. Bothwell could score goals, plus he could play up front. And I'm saying, how do we balance this? Try and make Tapai happy. Maybe he feels. I said, okay, I'll put Sonny Seven wide. I'll bring Tapai in. I'll let Bothwell go and get him behind Spink and Markowski.
Mm-hmm.
And this young boy, Carl Villani, from the youth team, good player, coming up, would score 1 out of 4, Markowski 1 out of 1. But Jonesy would get in your nerves. Jonesy, a poor
yeah,
hard
quality.
But get him a chance at balls. And we're working in training this week. I'll tell you a side story. So I wasn't happy with the free kicks getting wasted, particularly on the angles at the edge of the box. I felt we were trying too speculatively to try to score from there, far edge of the boxes. And I felt also, if Canosa and Parton came forward, were big men for the crossing, we were vulnerable in the counter-attack. So I wanted to work on this one. Actually, I saw Czechoslovakia, and they had a low ball going across the box, like low on the deck, between the 6-yard box and defenders, and you have 3 strikers attacking it, where you've got a 1 in 3 chance of connecting with the deck. And it's Spink there.
Interesting. Wow.
And Spink was very sharp. He could finish it. and Tapai could make a late run, and Bothwell would be the front man. And most of them were going to Mark Markowski. So I was getting Markowski to take the free kick. And we're working on it, it was not coming off and not coming off. And I'm saying, no, John, I want the ball cover. He said, no, I can hit the target from here. So when you think of this, you're anything sort of central, maybe the D on the edge of the box wide, you'll have a pop, direct shot area. Once you start to go wide, you're going, well, ambitious from here. Now, this particular one was on the left side free kick. If you're going to hit it for a goal, you would hit it with your right foot to swing in. Outside of the left it's too, you've got to come, it's predictable anyway, you're trying to get that near towards. You're not going to do it. And John says, I can do it. No, you're not doing it. Keep working on this. So we're working on it, then I tried bringing in Tapai. I brought in Spink who could hit it across, but then I was losing the
man inside. Yeah, the man inside. Yep.
Because we had to run over it first to create the illusion of the high ball, then we're going to hit the low ball running in, and defenders would struggle with it. But Markowski, he's insistent, I can. I said, no, you can't. He says, I can't. I said, okay, do it. I've never seen this in life. So I'm figuring he's going to hit with his left foot, he's going to go parallel to the line and try and bend it. And I'm ready to say, can't do that. Now, what does Jonesy do? He puts his back to the goal. He's back to the goal, goes behind him now. Ball's in front. He runs and he does one of them flicks like Maradona. Comes and flicks it. Boom. And it hits the bar.
Oh, wow.
It goes to me. Is that what you want? I said, that'll do.
Is he the most talented player that you've, like, in terms of potential, okay? Because I saw him coach me in I think I was 15 or 16, and he was coaching me in a FFV or Football Victoria sort of. Him and Lawrence Kidner were taking young boys who wanted to go and play there at Olympic Park, and Lawrence had just made the Ollie Roos side.
He's a good player.
Yeah, and but I think Jonesy for me, in terms of that. The talent, but the potential of what he could have achieved. Because I remember him hitting a penalty against, I mean, the boy who was in goal was my age, only 15 or 16. And he runs up to the ball, he runs up to the ball and turns, and then Chicky sort of backheels it, but he hardly touched the ball, right? And the keeper's already dived, and the ball's now just rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And he did it like he did it every day. And I've never seen anything since, either on a match or on a training field, something so brilliant in front of me. You see nutmegs and all these other types of things and overhead kicks. But that to me was like ingenious. He just invented it right then and there.
Yeah.
Was that a common occurrence for Jonesy on the training path?
He was a naturally impulsive player, is the best way to describe him. He could literally infuriate you and frustrate you because of what you wanted. He knew you wanted more. You wanted more. And what you realise now, I never had the coaching knowledge to understand him fully. But he was an entertainer.
Yes.
Supreme self-confidence.
Yes.
And there was two mistakes. So I was learning about coaching, and I'd been around and I'd got coaching badges, but I'd still only coached the youth team and been on the bench a lot of years. I had that, and I was their friend, and I needed to know. I needed to remove myself of this. I'm a coach. Lawrence Fink was another one. Gary Tapai. You're talking about big players, internationals.
Yeah.
And the guy was, what you had to understand about him was let him breathe a bit and let him be free. Up to the point of that he didn't do the complete team job. As a young coach, you're learning all about team performance. You try to get the best out of your team. You try to get the team and act a certain way.
Mm.
And so you're trying to make the game predictable, I think, is the best way. And you're trying to structure it into your playing thing. So suddenly Morwell's coming forward and we're doing nice things, and it's creating more of his end of the field.
Mm.
He's now into it. So Morwell had been trying to save games, defensive midfielder, cushion the blow and trying to see out a game or win a game.
Grind out a game.
Yeah. So what I realised right away with this team, we were frustrated. We felt we could take it to teams, but the brakes had been put on because Bobby didn't want to lose. That's understandable. It's not a criticism of Bobby. It's the need to address what you think you've got to address. I was young. I was coming no risk, and I was saying, no, we'll have a go. We'll go at it. So the brakes are off, and they're all coming forward. So suddenly it's at Jones's end of the field, and all that natural creativity and expectation. Yeah, I'm on the end of this. I'll be around. I'll pick up things off the keeper. I might shoot. I might take them on. Unpredictable.
Yeah.
But that was the beauty of it. I think that's the beauty of all them great players. You need to let them breathe. You need to explain to the other players, yeah, I know I'm tough on you. You're great at this job. You can't do that. He needs you. You need him. And you're trying to deal with the things in the team. An even more astonishing story. One of our games was against Brisbane Strikers. I think it actually was the first game of 5-1. And nothing's happening. And I'm talking about they're quite a good team. That's Frank Farina, Danny Wright, and then people are a very good side. Coach is excellent. Bruce Style, very experienced coach. He'd actually inducted me in some coaching courses as an instructor. The game's going, not going anywhere. It's sort of midway through the first half.
I think there was a red card in the 21st minute or something.
Yeah. Brian Bothwell.
Yeah.
Brian Bothwell, who we lost in film, was a big factor. Cut long story short, we're under the pump now. I've said, man, we'll just leave Johnny and Spink can come off in the head of midfield so we can. I'm now going defensive myself in a great team, but we'll catch him coming forward, maybe in the line. And I'm thinking, Jones has never been taken off, never been disciplined. He's that big of the crowd. There's no work in him. We need to work now. We're down to 10 men. I'm going. I'm saying to the manager, I'm going to take him off. 2 touches first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We broke up an attack. The goalkeeper got it. And in them days, we played for the back. Because we were defending, you keep the ball back. Come on, shot. I said, no, push up. The goalkeeper's kicked the ball. And it's skated. It's going out for a throw in on Jones on our right-hand side. He's a lefty, he's on our right-hand side. And he's got, I think it was Alan Hunter marking him. So it's going past him and going out for a throw-in. And I'm saying, like this. Anyway, he sticks out his right foot. He kills the ball, 1 touch. Hunter comes in and he's lobbed it over the top of him. Now he's going forward. And the boy, I think it was Danny Wright, comes on him. And he goes, swerves around him. Keeper comes out around him, and a little dink into the net. I'm about to take him off. I've got the guy with the number. And put this young boy Villani on. Game 1. And I'm shouting to him, no.
Brilliant. I love it.
And that was John Markowski. And I meet him now, and he's a player, he's a coach who's not interested. I mean, he knows the game. He's a wonderful brain. He'll tell you he's going to come up on the right-hand side because he's trying to force it on the left. Keep going at his right, and keep getting re-maneuver. He's wonderful at, I guess what you call player behaviour.
Yep.
And player behaviour, if I'm coming at you with a ball, Sash, you'll back off. But if I turn sideways, you'll close me a bit. And if I turn my back, you'll go bang. You'll not let me.
Yep.
But I'm going. So he's a master of player behaviour and reading. He's always testing. He's always trying to point your back on.
Fantastic stories. So you went on to become the Director of Coaching at Football Queensland, spent a number of years there, and then the Technical Director, and also did a job over at in representing. You got the call out to go to Fiji and Bulla Bulla.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. Obviously, the modern day, who can forget Roy Krishna? But there was another boy, was it Massa, that was the first one
So
Yeah.
Masai, the story of Masai is he had the second year I was at Morwell. We had a great start for the year. We were top of the league, we were cruising. Then I get injuries, then I get suspension. I got a tight little group, and we were hitting this way. Forms dropping from being number one, we're down to 6 and 7. So we need another striker. And the Olympic qualifiers was on at the time in Adelaide, Oceania. We were in the Oceania group. So I watched the first two on TV, and I saw the Fijian team. I love this boy Massa. I love his touch and his
Yeah, fit.
oh, I said, have a look at this guy. So I phoned up Raul Blanco, and I said, well, I'm coming over. I says, I'm going to have a look at this. He says, can you give me get some feedback on this Fijian player? Yeah. He says, and he told him, he arranged me to come to his hotel, but you got to pay respect to them. He said, they're in a tournament, you don't want to disrupt it. So I asked the manager, could I speak to him after the game? He said, no, you're not going to hear our players. Next I got him to Australia, he came and played for Morwell, very good. We just missed out in the finals, and he scored against South Melbourne, good player. But the competition arrived with one sprint, and not so much McCoskey, early Tapai. Because this guy could play up front, could play midfield, could play wide, and a goer. Played his bare feet a lot at training.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I had to force him to wear boots because he wear his bare feet. Because I said, it doesn't bother me. I said, yeah, but somebody else will cut your foot, you'll get injured. Can't do it, so. Yeah, so he was a revelation. And from there, when I was working with Football Queensland, Football Australia got a contract for I became an instructor, and they would send you to the Oceania Islands as an assistant coach and instructor, help them, their coaches. So I went to New Zealand and I met the Fijian people who remembered Isama Masai. And I got Isama Masai to Brisbane after it. Frank Howard didn't like him. He came him over after me. So they sort of had to ask me if to go. And FIFA were obligated in them days to spend their money. And one of the rules was they give money to the islands, providing they built a ground and they hired a foreign coach.
Okay.
And they developed a youth development program.
Yeah.
So I got offered this job, and I'm going, so my family were coming up. It was one of them opportunities to say, again, if you don't take it, things like so. The idea was to go there, bring my wife there, and my son and daughter, who was only little kids, get them in international school, so on and so on. I gets there, I've signed a contract, I'm settling into this house, I'm getting all prepared for my wife and kids. And lo and behold, they had a military coup.
Yes.
So there's guns.
Yeah. They like those things over there.
Yeah, there's guns in the streets and things I've never seen. But everybody loved me. I was a football coach, but I'm going, and every day there's protests and riots and guns going on. Going crazy. I can't bring my wife. Yeah. But then I've signed a 3-year contract. And you hear problems with contracts of players or coaches that are not obligated. I couldn't get out of this one. I'd signed and I'd taken in good faith up front a percentage of the money. So you get, and I can't get it. I said, oh, I told my wife, I said, no, look, you can't come, it's dangerous. I'm worried that anything can happen. I don't know anything about it. But my wife's back in Queensland, she's on her own, she's got 2 kids, she's not got support. So she goes back to Melbourne. And I'm sort of getting on with this job in Fiji. And to be fair, they're letting me go out the country and come back again. But you're in the World Cup in them days, it's World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, yeah.
And my natural place to prepare for it, because it was I had the Olympic team and the under-17s first. And I said, okay, I'll take the Olympic team into Australia and we'll play games and get them ready against. So I'd organised a lot of games against the National League clubs and various clubs. Quite a good preparation. Australian government wouldn't let us in.
Oh, wow.
They had a problem, so I'm going, Christ, I'm not going to prepare. But I managed to, Tom Sermani, who was Australian women's coach, he said, look, Harry, I'll organise games for you in Singapore.
Okay.
And I said, okay, that'd be good. And it was lower cost and budget and all that. Went to Singapore. Fijian players and any of them island players, Sasha, are individually very, very good. Great technique, good athletes, tactically naive.
Yeah.
But you need them to play with good players like that.
Yeah.
Collectively caught in old-fashioned things and beliefs and entrenched habits. So they struggle sometimes thinking, I'm not going to get best at this team. Singapore played there under 23s. We never lost a game, played all the wrestling teams. Half of the clubs wanted to sign the Fijian players.
Yeah.
But your problem is the normal habits of a football team. So they've got all the gear. They get sponsored by Puma. And you get the sandals for the hot weather. They wear them around the neck. And they wear the boots. They walk to the ground at bare feet. And they cut their feet. And look. Then you've got to be on the bus, down in the foyer for 10:15. We're leaving at 10:30, go to the ground. They come down at 20 to 11.
Yeah, it's the bullet time. Yeah. Got it.
All the things that frustrate you.
Yeah.
They're very disciplined. They're very respectful for the coach. They're actually very, very religious, very Christian, different. They sing all the time. Wonderful singers.
Yeah.
And so you're trying out problems. Then I realized, no, I ain't going to change this. I'm going to win some, I'm going to lose some. The time thing is too difficult. They have a cross with Muslim and Christians. So the Indian players predominantly are Muslim, Fijian players Christian. No problem with the players. The Fijian hierarchy FA are Muslim, Indian people. Very good, educated. The local Fijians, it's our country, and there's that going on.
Yeah.
Players are good. Players, no problem.
But it would have been a fantastic experience, obviously.
Oh, wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So much so, we went to, there was a player got in touch with me from the Solomons last week. He wants to know how to start an academy, and he's playing in New Zealand. I can't remember, Kenneth Tower or something. But the guy talked about, he was at a game as a kid, again. I'm coaching the game against his team, which was Solomon Islands. Oh, they're smaller but Brazilian. Fantastic football. We're playing them in the under 20s World Cup. We've got New Zealand in our section. Australia's playing in the other group. So if we beat New Zealand, we're through. New Zealand just need a draw against us. And everybody's supporting the Fijians, all the other island teams are there. New Zealand had 9 European internationals. The team, Sean Douglas was playing high, signed for Morwell. And we can't score. We've hit the bar. It's not on right. And I had a little player in defence who looked like, he's definitely Asian. He's Fijian. He's got Asian parents and Chinese looking. This little guy, he played at the back and could build it a bit. He came forward. He was trying to get him to get caught. And all he did was he came out of cover. And New Zealand was sitting back happy for the draw. We're going to defend all night. The guy wide couldn't get the cross in. So he checked back, he tried to fire it. And the wee boy blocked it. Do you remember when Australia lost to Argentina in Argentina the time they went out? It was a flukish kind of on goal by one of the centre backs. This was the same thing. The boy blocked it way out wide across, and it sort of stood high and went into the far corner, on goal. Anyway, we've lost the game 1-0. And the Fijian players were sitting there and they're crying on the field.
Oh, wow.
Because they think, and they said, no, let's get up. And they can't, and then they're crying in the dressing room, and the officials are crying. And I'm trying to hold it back myself. And I'm like, geez, well. And I'm sitting with the media. And Bobby Clark was a New Zealand coach. He says, no, we got through it. I'm not happy with that team. Totally outplayed. He says, by a local level team. He says, it's not so much that we played badly. You're not giving credit to our team playing well. These are good players. It's time we take notes of them on our doorstep. Very credible thing for me to say. A month later, I went with the 17th and I lost 1-0 to a penalty against New Zealand 17th. Again, right up there. And we finished a point behind them. If we win it, we've qualified first time in history. So we lose both games, but a great experience and a reality of international football. Hans Postecoglou came to watch us. I'll never forget it. and I had a pizza with him in New Caledonia.
Yeah.
He says to me, "I'm not Asian sweeper you got. Eat some player."
Yeah, I mean, so it's not often you get to coach in a World Cup qualifier, so that's a fantastic
It
experience.
certainly was.
And you went on, obviously, to at the VIS. Obviously, and then you spent many years at the FFV doing coaching credentials, coaching other coaches, coaching state teams, and then you were a coaching instructor at FFA, and have gone on to you were the TD at Northern Fury there for a year, so, and have been involved in many programs since.
Yeah.
So call out some of the players that you've had, in state teams, or just reel off a couple of names of some of the boys that you ran sessions with.
Yeah, well, currently in the national team, Jenny McLaren. I coached Jenny McLaren. I coached Nick Ansell. Two very good young players who played in that thing. And then the period before that, you've got, in the coaching sense, I'm mixing now with the big guys. I'd been Eddie Thompson when he was alive, as a coaching assistant, Raul Blanco. I thought Raul Blanco was so typical of the way I wanted to coach myself.
Yes, great coach.
That wonderful innovation. Players wanted to play for him. And he'd done so well with the Australian team against big teams, big clubs. You mentioned John McCarthy once, think Gary Tapa, they're international players with me, Sean Douglas. And then I had Billy Wright, who I played with and coached. And he loved me, he was a good friend. But that man is another Markovsky type, only controversial. He's an entertainer, totally selfish about his ability to score goals. Not interested in passing, give me I'll score.
Pass the ball.
That's what you want. The guy could do it. And
you want a bit of that in the centre forwards.
You need to have it,
Like, that's what makes them score goals.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm a traditionalist. I'm against, I'm kind of against, when I was a coach, I want the team, I want everybody's equal. I believe stereotypical stuff, which you realise you just popular to say, but it's not actually happening. You have to have the Markovskis, the Billy Wrights. He's got another one was the boy Con Boutsanis.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
I thought he was a brilliant player. I thought that kind of player. His nemesis was little Peter Toslakis, who came during or with him. These fellas are entertaining plus. Nemanja Rakovic I go to work with. A guy who had a charisma about him that players wanted to play for. They want to play for this guy. It didn't do much, Your players of that era and all them eras. One of the best players I never coached, but who destroyed me every memory I have of playing it, was Goran Lozanovsky.
Yeah, quality.
Goran Lozanovsky was
quality.
Just a special player. Aggressive, pace, and the way he crossed the ball and come in at pace and curled around, come back to you. But the strikers is gone in front, is coming back into you, kind of Beckham-esque. And I got to work a bit with Frank Farina in Brisbane. Frank Farina, brilliant brain in the football, run across you, Frank Farina, I've seen him help create a goal where his teammate, I think it was a guy Rod Brown, good player, coming out a defender, and the defender's backing off, and Farina's getting marked over here by another player, maybe a sweeper. So Farina runs between the defender and Rodney Brown. Farina runs across and screams him for a minute, enough to let Brown go that way. The defender can't see it, and Brown hits it into the net. And I remember asking him that, I said, no, when you run across, there's a moment you can't see the ball, you've got to wait. And he said, I talked to Rod Brown, if I do it, go to the right and the left, and open up and have a goal shot. Now, these are the inherent things you cannot learn as a coach. You learn from players.
Yes.
And I think, in my opinion, it's players that learn us coaching. We don't learn them. if you think about it, Sasha, you're creating tactics because of players.
Yes.
So you're coming up a very good tactical situation defensively. You're going, yeah, okay, now they're going to mark Markowski. I'll get Markowski to go wide left. And see if the centre back comes over the field, but that will open it up for Spink to get through. There's only one less. So you're doing things. Of course, if you're opposing that, you're going, let me pick up Tapa. But he likes to run and drift. And then you get 2-on-1.
Yep.
But that puts me a man down. And so you're thinking like that. Players do that to you.
It becomes like the chess pieces on the board.
Yeah.
And we're playing, oh, yes, we've got a queen here that can do anything, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to play them free like a Messi, right? Or, you know, these players are pawns that just do a job, right? And you understand what you have in the Cattle Park.
Marvellous.
The wealth of wisdom, you have done it all, sir, and you continue to coach young boys and girls. The beauty of the game. You're involved. You're doing some work with West Ham still.
Yes. My friend played for West Ham for a number of years, and he lives in Queensland now. And he introduced the West Ham Academy to Australia. It's not him that does it. The real West Ham guys come out, and we assist with them.
Yep.
They do it all over Australia, and we have clinics in Victoria. Then they'll pick the best players to go to the Gold Coast for a long weekend. Then they'll take the best from there for Australia, New Zealand, go to the UK.
Yep.
Lo and behold, I think I told you an earlier story, my last one for the day. I told you about a player I had at Greenup Morton.
Yep.
Both of us signed straight from school. He's in the lesser teams, in the lesser representative teams. I'm winning all the time. I'm getting all the trials. He's not. His name was Neil Orr.
Yep.
Neil Orr went on transfer from Morton to West Ham.
Yep.
He's dead. He's a 16-year-old in the Scottish Premier League. Exceptional player. Classy on the ball. Was playing out for the back in his days. Good career at West Ham. Went to Hibernian. Finished his career there.
Yep.
Scottish. And he'd have been an international at the time of Scottish. He was playing in the time of Souness and Dalglish in Scotland's very big. I hadn't talked to him, and here I go to West Ham camp, the Gold Coast, and now he's living in Australia, Newcastle. He's sitting there. He goes, "How you doing, Harry? I haven't spoken to him for 40 years."
Yeah.
I'm going, "Neil Orr, you bastard. You went to West Ham, I went to the shipyards."
Look, mate, if you didn't go to the shipyards, then we wouldn't have had you down, and you wouldn't have been part of setting up Morwell, entering the NSL. This is about, you know, somebody else's loss is our gain, and
thank you.
And you're being a coach educator, and still helping many young coaches learn this great game. So, you know, and I know, being just from speaking with you and your willingness to share your knowledge, you do that with everybody. So you're a credit to this sport. We thank you for your service, and this has been a really good chat. So cheers to you, Harry Bingham.
Thank you very much. I'm very lucky and very privileged, and I enjoy sharing stories. And the love of the game is a wonderful thing, because you'll communicate with many people, and if we can impart something back to any young player going to experience their same thoughts and feelings, then we're doing something good. We're doing something good. So, absolute pleasure and privilege to talk with you, and I've been honoured to get the opportunity.
Cheers, Harry.
Thank you.